Millions of families trusted them. For nearly a decade, viewers watched Little House on the Prairie like it was the perfect picture of love, kindness, and family values. On screen, Michael Landon played the warm and caring father audiences adored, while Melissa Sue Anderson became one of television's most recognizable child stars. But behind the smiles, another story quietly unfolded. Years later, Melissa Sue shocked many fans when she revealed that working with Michael Landon was far more difficult than viewers ever imagined. The tension did not happen overnight either. According to interviews and memoir discussions surrounding the show, those feelings slowly built during years of filming. And this is where the story changes completely. To the public, the cast looked like a real family. That illusion became part of why the series stayed so successful from 1974 until 1983. According to NBC archives, the show drew millions of weekly viewers and became one of the most beloved family dramas in television history. But television families are not always real families. Child actors often grow up inside environments filled with pressure, favoritism, and emotional confusion. Researchers from the American Academy of Pediatrics have warned that young performers can struggle with identity, stress, and isolation because they spend so much of childhood working around adults instead of kids their own age. Melissa Sue lived inside that world for years. While viewers saw warm prairie sunsets and emotional family scenes, the young actress reportedly felt increasing discomfort behind the cameras. Some cast members appeared closer to Michael than others, and over time, Melissa Sue allegedly began feeling pushed to the outside. But here's what nobody told you. Michael Landon was not just the star of the show. He also directed, produced, and controlled much of what happened on set. That gave him enormous power over the cast, especially the younger actors who depended on the show for their careers. And when one person controls everything, tensions can grow fast. Fans later noticed that Melissa Sue often appeared quieter during reunions and interviews compared to some of the other cast members. At first, many people thought she was simply shy, but years later, viewers started wondering if something much deeper had been hiding underneath the surface all along. What happened next shocked everyone. Most people still cannot agree on Michael Landon today. Some see him as a television genius who built a legendary show. Others believe the pressure he created behind the scenes hurt people emotionally. Which side are you on? Do you think great artists sometimes become too controlling? Or was Michael Landon simply demanding excellence? Comment below right now. As the years passed, Melissa Sue reportedly grew more frustrated with the environment around her. And eventually, one painful pattern behind the scenes would become impossible for her to ignore. The real conflict was only beginning. At first, Melissa Sue Anderson looked like she had the perfect life. She starred in one of America's biggest television shows. Millions of fans recognized her face, and her role as Mary Ingalls made her one of the most loved young actresses of the 1970s. But fame can feel strangely lonely. While Little House on the Prairie became a huge success across America, Melissa Sue reportedly struggled to feel fully connected to the cast around her. In later interviews and in discussions surrounding her memoir, she hinted that she often felt different from many of her co-stars. And this is where things started getting uncomfortable. Unlike some of the other younger actors who formed close friendships behind the scenes, Melissa Sue reportedly kept more distance. Some fans later described her as serious, private, and extremely focused on her work. That personality sometimes made her appear isolated on set, but there may have been more happening underneath. Child stars often carry enormous pressure because adults expect them to behave like professionals before they emotionally mature. According to research from UCLA's Center for Scholars and Storytellers, many child actors struggle with anxiety and emotional isolation because they constantly fear disappointing producers, directors, or audiences. Melissa Sue lived under that pressure every day. And because Michael Landon controlled so much of the show creatively, his approval mattered deeply to everyone working there. Cast members respected him, feared him, or sometimes both at the same time. That kind of environment changes people. But here's what nobody told you. Melissa Sue later suggested that she did not always feel emotionally supported during filming. While Michael Landon joked around with some cast members and built strong friendships with others, Melissa Sue reportedly felt overlooked at times. That feeling slowly turned into frustration. Fans watching the show could never see it. On screen, the chemistry looked natural and loving. But behind the cameras, Melissa Sue allegedly began feeling more disconnected from the group every year. And this next part changes everything. As her role on the show became more emotional, especially during Mary Ingle's blindness storyline, the pressure on Melissa Sue increased dramatically. According to television historians and interviews from the cast, those scenes demanded intense, emotional performances from a very young actress. She carried huge emotional weight, and she carried it publicly. Some fans believed Michael Landon pushed actors hard because he wanted the show to feel emotionally real. Others later questioned whether certain young performers receive enough care while handling difficult storylines week after week. That debate still follows the show today. But what made Melissa Sue's experience even harder was the growing feeling that speaking up might damage her career. In Hollywood, especially during the 1970s and 1980s, young actors often stayed silent because powerful producers controlled future opportunities. Fear keeps many people quiet. According to psychologists who study workplace power dynamics, employees under highly dominant leadership often avoid conflict even when emotional stress becomes severe. The fear of losing opportunities becomes stronger than the desire to speak honestly. Melissa Sue may have felt trapped inside that reality. But here's where it gets dark. As years passed, stories about Michael Landon's behavior behind the scenes became more complicated. Some cast members defended him completely. Others quietly admitted he could be difficult, controlling, or emotionally unpredictable. And Melissa Sue was paying attention to all of it. This next part of the story, very few people know about it. Subscribe right now so you never miss stories Hollywood try to keep hidden. Because soon, tensions behind the scenes would reportedly grow strong enough that Melissa Sue could no longer hide how she truly felt about Michael Landon. And once those feelings surfaced, fans saw the show in a completely different way. By the late 1970s, Michael Landon had become far more than just the star of Little House on the Prairie. He helped shape the scripts, directed major episodes, and controlled much of the atmosphere behind the scenes. To many people in Hollywood, he looked unstoppable. But power changes the energy around a person. Cast members respected Michael because he knew television better than almost anyone else at the time. According to NBC production reports and television historians, Michael often worked extremely long hours and pushed hard to keep the show successful year after year. That pressure affected everyone. Some actors admired his perfectionism because they believed it made the show better. Others quietly struggled under the intensity he reportedly brought onto the set. People close to the production later described him as funny and charismatic one moment, then demanding and difficult the next. And this is where things became emotionally complicated for Melissa Sue Anderson. As a young actress, Melissa Sue spent years working under Michael's leadership while trying to handle fame, emotional storylines, and public attention all at once. According to later interviews connected to her memoir, she sometimes felt uncomfortable with the environment surrounding the show. But here's what nobody told you. Michael Landon reportedly formed closer bonds with certain cast members than others. Fans especially noticed his strong connection with younger stars like Melissa Gilbert, who played Laura Ingalls. Over time, some viewers and insiders began wondering if favoritism existed behind the scenes. That perception created tension. When young actors feel excluded inside a workplace, the emotional effects can last for years. Researchers from Child Mind Institute explain that exclusion during adolescence often creates deep feelings of insecurity because teenagers naturally crave acceptance from authority figures and peer groups. Melissa Sue may have carried that feeling silently. And this next part changes everything. While the show focused heavily on family values, life behind the cameras reportedly became more stressful as production demands increased. Filming schedules were exhausting. Emotional scenes became harder, and Michael's leadership style allegedly grew more controlling as the pressure to maintain ratings continued. Success became a burden. Some cast members later described Michael as a creative genius who pushed everyone to perform at their best. Others hinted that his behavior could cross emotional lines, especially when stress overwhelmed him. That contradiction confused fans for years. How could one man inspire so much love and frustration at the same time? The answer may come down to something very human. Powerful people often create both admiration and resentment because they shape the lives of everyone around them. Some people thrive under strong leadership. Others slowly feel crushed by it. And Melissa Sue reportedly reached her limit. What happened next shocked everyone. As the years passed, viewers began noticing Melissa Sue appearing more distant from the Little House cast during public reunions and interviews. While other actors shared war memories freely, Melissa Sue often sounded more reserved when discussing her years on the series. Fans started asking questions. Why did she seem emotionally disconnected from a show that changed her life forever? Why did her memories feel colder than everyone else's? The answers slowly started surfacing years later. Have you ever worked under someone who made you feel small, even while helping you succeed? That emotional conflict destroys more people than most realize. Tell us your story below. Because eventually, Melissa Sue would openly discuss the frustrations she carried for decades. And one particular issue involving Michael Landon reportedly hurt her more than fans ever expected. The next chapter would finally expose the emotional cracks hidden behind television's happiest family. For years, Melissa Sue Anderson stayed mostly quiet about her real feelings toward Michael Landon. That silence made many fans believe everything behind the scenes had been peaceful. But the truth turned out far more complicated. As Melissa Sue grew older and stepped further away from Hollywood, she slowly became more open about the emotional tension she experienced during her time on Little House on the Prairie. In interviews and discussions surrounding her memoir, she described feeling isolated from parts of the cast and disconnected from the atmosphere Michael created. And this is where fans became stunned. Many viewers grew up seeing Michael Landon as television's perfect father figure. He represented warmth, kindness, and emotional wisdom on screen. That image became deeply personal for millions of people who watch the show with their families every week. But real life rarely matches television. Melissa Sue reportedly felt Michael could be emotionally selective with the people around him. Some cast members received warmth and attention, while others allegedly felt pushed aside or overlooked. Over time, that imbalance appears to have deeply affected how Melissa Sue viewed him, and the emotional damage stayed with her for years. Psychologists from the University of Michigan explain that workplace favoritism often creates long-lasting emotional resentment because people naturally compare how authority figures treat others. When someone feels excluded repeatedly, the brain starts connecting that pain to self-worth. That feeling can quietly grow for decades. But here's what nobody told you. Melissa Sue's frustration may not have come from one explosive moment. Instead, it appears the tension slowly built through years of small emotional cuts. Feeling isolated, feeling unsupported, feeling emotionally distant from the environment around her. Sometimes the quiet pain lasts longest. Fans especially reacted strongly when Melissa Sue hinted that she never felt as deeply connected to the Little House family as audiences assumed. For viewers who spent years believing the cast shared an unbreakable bond, that revelation felt almost heartbreaking. The illusion shattered overnight. And this next part changes everything. As Melissa Sue became more honest in interviews, many fans began revisiting old cast dynamics with completely different eyes. People noticed how often certain actors remained close to Michael Landon long after the show ended, while Melissa Sue kept more distance from reunions and nostalgia events. That separation suddenly made sense. Some fans defended Michael immediately, arguing that running a hit television show placed enormous pressure on him every day. Others believed Melissa Sue's feelings deserved more understanding because emotional pain does not need screaming or public fights to become real. Both sides grew louder online, and this is where the story became deeply emotional for longtime viewers. People did not just love Little House because of the stories. They loved it because it represented safety, family, and comfort during difficult times in their own lives. Hearing that tension existed behind the scenes made many fans feel strangely betrayed. That reaction is more common than people realize. Researchers from Stanford found that audiences often form emotional attachments to fictional families because those shows become tied to childhood memories and emotional security. When hidden conflicts later surface, viewers can feel personal disappointment, almost like family betrayal. What I'm about to tell you in the next section is something most channels won't touch. Hit subscribe. You'll understand why. Because Melissa Sue was not the only cast member with complicated feelings about Michael Landon. And once other stories from behind the scenes started surfacing, the image of television's perfect Prairie family became even more complicated. The next chapter would expose why some actors defended Michael completely, while others stayed silent for decades. Once Melissa Sue Anderson began opening up about her experience with Michael Landon, fans started asking a much bigger question. Did other cast members secretly feel the same way? The answers turned out far more complicated than anyone expected. Some actors who worked on Little House on the Prairie continued praising Michael for years after his death in 1991. They described him as funny, generous, protective, and deeply talented. Many credited him with helping shape their careers and teaching them how television really worked. To them, Michael Landon was a mentor. But not everyone experienced him the same way. That contradiction became one of the biggest mysteries surrounding the Little House cast. How could one person inspire so much loyalty while also leaving others emotionally distant? And this is where things get uncomfortable. Several former cast members admitted over the years that Michael could be extremely demanding behind the scenes. He reportedly expected discipline, fast work, and emotional performances without excuses. Some actors thrived under that pressure. Others quietly struggled with it. The set became emotionally divided in ways viewers never saw. According to entertainment historians, powerful television creators often build intense work environments because they carry enormous pressure to keep ratings high. During the late 1970s, Little House remained one of NBC's biggest family programs, and Michael reportedly fought constantly to protect the show's success. That pressure likely shaped his behavior. But here's what nobody told you. Many young actors working on the series were still children trying to understand adult emotional dynamics around them. Some formed close bonds with Michael and saw him almost like a second father. Others reportedly felt intimidated by his strong personality and emotional unpredictability. Both experiences can exist at the same time. Psychologists who study workplace leadership explain that highly charismatic people often create emotional extremes in group environments. Certain personalities feel inspired and protected around them, while others feel ignored or emotionally disconnected. That may explain why the cast remembers Michael so differently today. And this next part changes everything. Fans especially noticed that some former cast members rarely spoke publicly about behind-the-scenes tension at all. Their silence created even more curiosity online. People wondered if they stayed quiet out of loyalty, fear, respect, or simply a desire to move on from painful memories. No one fully knows. But Melissa Sue's honesty opened a door many fans never expected to see. Suddenly, viewers realized that Little House was not just a warm family drama. It was also a real workplace filled with pressure, complicated emotions, and human flaws. That realization changed how many people watched the show forever. Have you ever loved someone deeply while also feeling hurt by them at the same time? That emotional conflict confuses people for years. Share your thoughts below. And this is where the story becomes even sadder. After Michael Landon passed away from pancreatic cancer in 1991 at only 54 years old, many former cast members publicly mourned him with deep emotion. But even after his death, complicated feelings about him never completely disappeared. Some actors focused only on his kindness. Others quietly carried emotional wounds that never fully healed. That complexity makes this story feel painfully human, because real people are rarely all good or all bad. Sometimes the same person who inspires you can also hurt you without fully realizing it. And years later, Melissa Sue would finally explain how she truly feels now about the man millions of viewers still call television's greatest father. The final chapter reveals why her truth still shocks fans today. Decades after Little House on the Prairie first aired, Melissa Sue Anderson finally gave fans a clearer picture of what she carried emotionally for so many years. And for many longtime viewers, her honesty changed the way they saw the show forever. Melissa Sue never described Michael Landon as a monster. That is important to understand. Instead, her comments painted a far more complicated picture of a talented man whose behavior reportedly left some people feeling hurt, isolated, or emotionally disconnected behind the scenes. That honesty shocked fans because real life is rarely simple. For years, audiences wanted one clean answer. Either Michael was the perfect television father everyone remembered, or he was secretly terrible behind cameras. But Melissa Sue's story suggested something far more human and uncomfortable. People can inspire you and hurt you at the same time. And this is where the emotional weight of the story truly lands. Michael Landon created a show that comforted millions of families during difficult moments in their lives. According to television historians, Little House became one of the most replayed family dramas in TV history because viewers connected deeply with its emotional warmth and moral lessons. That impact was real, but Melissa Sue's feelings were real too. Researchers who study childhood fame explain that young performers often process emotional experiences differently as adults because they finally gain the maturity to understand situations that confuse them as children. Feelings they once ignored suddenly become clearer years later. That may explain why Melissa Sue opened up after so much time passed. But here's what nobody told you. Many fans actually respected her more after hearing her side of the story. Instead of attacking Michael cruelly, she spoke honestly about how isolated and unhappy she sometimes felt during those years. That emotional honesty made many viewers realize how difficult life as a child actor can truly become, especially under powerful authority figures. And this next part changes everything. As more interviews resurfaced online, fans began revisiting old episodes of Little House with completely different emotions. Scenes that once felt warm and comforting suddenly carried a strange sadness because viewers now understood that real tensions may have existed behind the smiles. The illusion changed forever. But maybe that is also why this story matters so much. It reminds us that television creates fantasies. Real people still exist underneath those characters. They carry insecurities, loneliness, jealousy, pressure, and emotional scars just like everyone else watching from home. That truth connects all of us. We've all had someone in our lives who inspired us while also hurting us emotionally. Melissa Sue finally found the courage to speak honestly about hers. Tell us about someone who left you with mixed emotions years later. Today, Little House on the Prairie still survives as one of television's most beloved family shows. Millions continue watching reruns around the world. And despite the pain behind the scenes, Melissa Sue's work helped create something audiences still treasure decades later. That legacy cannot be erased. But here's what we didn't cover today. And trust me, it gets even deeper. There are still hidden stories from the Little House cast that many fans have never heard, including shocking behind-the-scenes feuds and secrets involving other major stars from the show. Watch our next video right now. The link is on your screen.